Okay, hello everyone. We are going to try something a little bit different uh, today. So it's not going to be like a typical lesson and assignment. What I'm going to do is actually give you a bit of a project to do. I'm going to post both of these PDF files up, and so you can read through them and take a look. But I wanted to make a few videos for you to help explain what the project is going to be. So that's what this first video is kind of an overall explanation of the project. And then I'm going to post a few more that have descriptions of specific things. Um, so overall, the project is going to be about analyzing budgets. So making a budget, it's kind of what we've been talking about with our work. And it's a super important thing for you to be able to do. And there's kind of a general rule to live by when you're making a budget. And it says it right here. It says one rule to live by when making a budget is to look at your monthly net income. That means how much, of course, if you remember net income, that means how much you actually take home from your paycheck. And plan to use 50% of it on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on saving for financial goals. So that's like the split up, a 50-30-20 split. 50% on needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on saving for financial goals. So what this project has is it has three different scenarios for you to choose from. You can choose scenario one, scenario two, or scenario three, and do some analyzing of those budget scenarios based on some questions. So the instructions for the assignment are to, one, review a scenario on the budget scenarios handout. And here is the budget scenarios handout. I'm going to go through that in another video. But you need to review a scenario on that handout and write the expenses in the appropriate categories on the next page. I'll show you what that means. Number two will be to determine whether the monthly budget meets the 50-30-20 rule. So does the budget that you chose fall within the 50% of needs, 30% on wants, and 20% on financial goals? And then three is write some advice to help bring the scenario's budget closer if it doesn't meet it, the 50-30-20 rule. So things that they could do to move it closer. Okay. So for instruction number one, review a scenario on the budget scenarios handout and write the expenses in the appropriate categories on the next page. If I go to the next page of this PDF file, I see here, I'm going to create categorize expenses in the 50-30-20 rule of budgeting. So as I read through the scenario on the budget scenarios handout, I'm going to list all the expenses for each category in the appropriate cell below. So here's the cell. I'm going to have to categorize what parts of the budget would fall under needs, what parts would fall under wants, and what parts would fall under financial goals. We want to list all the expenses in the category. Okay. So first and foremost, let's go to the budget scenarios. And there's three different scenarios here. Again, I'll do a very specific video for each scenario, but there's three different scenarios and they have different expenses, expense types, and expense costs. The first scenario is a recent college graduate. The second scenario is planning for family goals. And then the third scenario is a young working woman. And they all have different expenses and different costs. And what we're going to have to do is categorize each of these expenses. So like rent would be categorized under a need. Groceries would be a need, but clothing would be a want. And cable internet would be a want, things like that. So we're going to go through and categorize them. Now, remember, you can pick one of these three scenarios. You do not have to do all three. You're going to pick one of the three and you're going to summarize it like this, okay? So once we pick that one for scenario, different scenarios, let's say we pick scenario one. We know that her monthly net income is $2,800. Again, I'm going to go through that specifically, but you would put that there, $2,800. And then what's nice about these PDFs is you can actually just type right in there. So you don't have to print it or you don't have to create your own. You can actually just use this to type it in there. And so then for needs, as an example, to list all the expenses in the needs category, I'm going to list rent as $960. So rent is $960. Of course, there will be some wants and there will be some financial goals. And you need to list all of those things in there. And then under category total, you are going to add up everything in this category. So rent, maybe groceries, etc. And you're going to get a total here. You're going to add the total here. Then underneath that, the percent of net income. What you're going to do is you're going to take the percentage that this category is for your total. So you're going to take your category total and you're going to divide by your net income. Okay, and that will get you a decimal, which will be representative of a percentage. So you can find the percentage, and then you're going to compare to the 50, 30, 20 rule. This needs category should be 50% of the budget, monthly budget. Oh, I spelled that wrong. The monthly budget. You have to answer here. Is it 50% of the monthly budget? If it's not, tell me how it compares. Okay. And then on the next page, you are going to justify which categorizations you made. So you need to explain your thinking as to why you categorized expenses the way you did. So when you go back here, when you categorized everything, you need to explain to me why. Why did you put rent and whatever you put here? Maybe you put, groceries as well there. Why did you do that? You need to explain this in this box here, okay? So in this box, it's why did you choose each item to be in the category you chose. The next box is analyzing the budget. It says, describe how this budget compares to the suggested 50-20-30 rule of budgeting. So does it follow the 50-30-20 rule? If yes, say, how about this? If no, explain why. And then advice for improving the budget. What advice would you give to the individual you chose in this scenario to improve their budget? So give them some things that they could do to improve their budget. Okay, and then that's it. When you have done all of that, you are finished this assignment. So I will, again, you can pause this video and go back, stop it and go back and get some explanations. Of course, you can ask me any questions that you need, but I'm going to post videos now of each budget scenario so that you can choose one and go through it. Okay.